Welcome to the Business Growth Accelerator. Your host, Brandon Garcia here, your business growth strategist. With me today is Matt Gerchow, a global digital marketing maven from Seattle with 2 decades under his belt, founder of Steady Content, which morphed into agencyhub.com. Matt seamlessly blends tech with creativity. He's lived in places like Colombia and Mexico, which means he brings a world of insights to the table. Beyond being an industry leader, he's an explorer, mentor, and philanthropist. Matt is all about transforming the digital space and inspiring others to do the same. Let's dive in. Matt, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today. We connected on LinkedIn several weeks ago, and on our first call, I was shocked how that went. You got me dialed into one of your programs there, and I can say so far it's been going great. But to catch all of our listeners up here, can you give us a little bit of a background on who you are, what you do, how you do it, and who you do it for?
Sure. So I've been in this, I'm a dinosaur in this industry now. I've been going since 1997, and I started out in the first round of the dot-coms and with a company called petplace.com, and we were in New York and did the whole Silicon Alley thing. We were partnered with pets.com. Fast forward, been in internet/real estate ever since, multiple projects, multiple exits. What I'm working on currently is called Agency Hub, and it is a product/marketplace where we have SEO and paid media and everything in between, about 70 different products for digital marketing agencies and that are vertical specific. We focus a lot on plastic surgeons, attorneys, HVAC, home services. The one we did for your client was, what was that? Construction, like bathroom renovations.
Bathroom renovations and remodeling. Yeah, it's going pretty well. Looking forward to the next report.
And you are actually one of our ideal clients. You have several clients at the moment and growing, but looks like you're growing rapidly. And so we become the go between several vendors, legit or fiber or some of these other services that are out there, but we're much more geared around ongoing recurring services that require a higher touch, higher level of communication than you're going to get from working with, say, Pakistan or India. Almost everything that we do is here in the United States or South America. It's what we call nearshore.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you mentioned you started in 97. So back in 97, I think I was in 8th grade, maybe. So
okay. Yeah.
You got some years on me for that. So what was the turning point then that moved you out of the .com? And we all know that it all busted in the early 2000s, but moving from that to then niching into helping agencies fulfill the services that they need to fulfill.
Sure. So 2016, we started Steady Content, and that was a really good run, actually still a very good run. We're still a predominant part of our business. But in 2019, 2020, mid-pandemic, saw the writing on the wall with the AI writers coming and just knew that we had to make a pivot. And so that was when Agency Hub was purchased. I chased the domain for several years. I was finally able to get the guy to agree to a price. And then we started building out more products because I had a company called, or I still have a company called afax.com, and I'd done some really high-end commissions on affiliate sales for faxing. And so obviously we know that faxing is declining every year. Okay. Content is going to be declining every year, although we're seeing signals right now that Google is starting to penalize the AI content. We can talk about that a little bit later. But what you have to do in the market, anybody who has a content company has seen their business, maybe not eviscerated, but severely threatened over the last year. Okay. So I look to some people I know that own AppSumo, Amen, and Noah over there, and I see how they have the flexibility to, everybody's creating products, everybody's creating new business, new approaches, new angles, new tools, new services. And what Agency Hub allows us to do is nurture our customer base of agencies. Well, we currently service maybe 200 to 300 agencies given the month, and we have probably 1,500 to 3,000 agencies in our database that receive emails from us on a regular basis. We can take a new product and go to market with it. And because of the way we've built our system with the communication structure there, we're able to sell those, allow people to put their requirements, and then communicate directly with the end customer. So the agency can actually invite the direct customer to a platform called three-way chat, and then they're getting serviced by the provider, which is great for like your small agency that's trying to grow, that's maybe a one-person, two-person agency. What often happens is they have a hard time getting out of their own way. They want to provide the quality service, but they just don't they don't have the skill set or the bandwidth in order to do that. Make sense so far?
It does 100% make sense. And I've stumbled coming out of the gate a couple times trying to find that a perfect white label partner, and I actually found your company through my current white label partner through Steady Content, and just went down the rabbit hole there. So glad we connected with that. Yeah, the service you provide has been great overall, both with the Steady Content and the other products that we're using.
Right, the map boost. And
Yep.
yeah, and that's just it, is Steady Content now becomes one of 70 products on Agency Hub, and it allows us the flexibility to flow with the market. While AI content is hot right now, Google Maps is hot right now, what will be hot next year? It's unknown at this point.
I hear that Apple is starting into the game of the Maps deal. So I've seen some courses come out from other agency coaches about the Apple
There you
Map
go.
Pack.
Perfect
So
example.
that's coming down the pipeline, as well as voice search. So I'm seeing more ads when it comes to voice search capabilities, because all of our smart tech and people going to Siri and Alexa and whatever the Google deal is, people are searching more by voice than anything. So did you ever work a 9 to 5 before you got into doing businesses?
I have not worked a 9 to 5 since 2020. No, since 2001.
Okay. So
It's been a little bit.
So what were some of the challenges then in your career, and how did you overcome them before you decided to burn the bridges and go all in on your
Yeah, so
entrepreneurship?
I was living in Florida my last 9 to 5. I was working with a company called Turnberry Associates. They own Aventura Mall and several other large real estate developments. Just the mall by itself is worth over $2 billion. It was a great run. It was a Jewish owned company. So you had the normal holidays plus the Jewish holidays off. Not being Jewish, it was like just getting an extra 13 days off a year. I felt like you never worked almost. And I was flying around in private jets with them, opening up restaurants for Raquel Welch and her husband, Richie Palmer, and had an amazing time there. But at the end of the day, I was limited on the top end of my income. It didn't have that, that ability to hockey stick it and go from, back then, I think I was making 50 grand a year or something like that. And I had perks. I had open tabs at restaurants. I had my own night at one of the restaurants on a Friday night. So that was great for my social life. But you're just capped at income, and maybe there's a growth there, but someone else is holding your reins at all times, right? They're going to decide how far you can go. And ultimately, I'm just going to move my camera here a little bit if I can. There we go. That way I can focus on you. That didn't seem to work at all.
Yes.
Back here. I haven't quite figured out the lighting up here. We're looking at my office in Austin, and I'm up here in Bothell, Washington, Seattle, Washington at the moment. Yeah, so ultimately there was 9/11 happened, and all of the new restaurant expansion halted overnight, and I was ultimately let go. Fortunately for me, I had been moonlighting a real estate investment business on the side. I saw my cousin making what was probably $800,000 a year up in Tampa, flipping houses, and I got sucked into that and actually made several $1,000,000 there over the next 4 years. But I would not say that it was easy. It was like anything, man. I don't think there's an easy run out there, right? Look at what you're doing right now, Brandon, with ClickFunnels, et cetera. Do you think any of it's easy?
No, none of it at all is easy. And if anybody tells you that it is, they're not telling you all the crap they ate to get to where they're at. If you see somebody that seems to be an overnight success, it's usually anywhere from 5 to 10 years of them building it up, or they spent a massive amount of money to buy the speed to get everything set up for them, and they're just very good at the pitching and the selling. Me personally, I've been dabbling in it. When I was down in Florida myself and selling cars, trying to figure out the affiliate marketing game, and I set up and failed I don't know, half dozen Shopify stores and eBay accounts. And it wasn't until, the pandemic hit and I'm in a brand new market trying to sell cars in cold Ohio winters. I was like, I got to figure something out and really hone in on the craft and get down to business, so to speak. So
now, when the pandemic hit, did people stop buying cars all of a sudden? Because I know at one point there was a huge demand for cars.
So nobody really stopped buying cars, but how the process went totally changed. You had the whole social distancing deal. I got lucky for that period of time because when I moved up here to Ohio, it was 2019. I was selling insurance door to door, and I was getting the news reports that something crazy happening in China. Not really,
right?
It was just scratching the back of the head. You knew something was coming down. You just had to find a pivot to get back into something that I knew. And luckily, I got hired onto a car dealership before everything shut down. And when that happened, I was scared, man, because I thought being a new guy and all that kind of stuff would just be one of the first ones to let go. But they kept me on, and I don't know, I sold, half dozen cars or so for my kitchen table and just went in to deliver them because I was hungry, I needed to eat, and I had to make sure that I kept my place there. But as time went on, and I was just falling back into that feeling that I had when I was selling cars down in Florida. It wasn't what I wanted to do, but needed to do just to get the roots in the area that I was at. It just came down to the winters were terrible. Traffic was still slow, the social distancing. And then when the supply chain got down, we had at most a half dozen new cars in the lot a month. And so it was less than 30 days worth of inventory. And all I did was sell new. So it did make it, to make it a little difficult. But and that's when I decided to figure out how to do I wouldn't say online marketing, but the consulting side of it to help these local businesses figure out what they need to set up properly so they can weather these storms that come through.
Yeah. And I've actually got a little bit of a similar story. I was doing well in real estate, and then 2007, 2008 hit. It was really 2006, 2007 in Florida, the canary in the coal mine when it comes to real estate, because they don't have the large industry down there supporting the swells that we go through. And all of the adjustable rate mortgages were going into effect just like they are now. And it surprises me. Do you know what an adjustable rate mortgage is?
Yeah. You start off at a base rate, and then 5, 6, 7 years down the road, they can jack it up or lower it down or whatever the market deals.
Yeah, they can even do it just as the market fluctuates. They can go 1, 3, 5, 7. But what always blows my mind is someone can qualify at 3%, but they absolutely don't qualify if that mortgage was 6%. They're going to lose the house, especially if they have a steady income. So I don't understand how those were supposed to become illegal after 2007, but they're all over the place still. But that was going into effect. And I had several properties, and I just shut down, and I left to chase my then girlfriend, now wife, to Colombia. And I went for 10 days and ended up staying 6 weeks because I was like, my problems felt like they were on the moon. My problems back in Miami felt about this big compared to where I was. I was just so far away from the problems that I was like, wow, let's just hang out here as long as possible because this feels better. Versus everywhere you went in Miami, you saw the foreclosure signs. You were getting hounded by different investors and different realtors, and everybody was tense, I guess. But why I bring that up is much like your situation. I'm now in a country where I don't speak the language. I spoke maybe 100 or 200 words of Spanish, and I had to figure out how to make money. Then fast forward 3 or 4 months. And now my girlfriend is pregnant and we've got a baby on the way, and savings just dwindling. And I have to really figure out how I'm going to support this child, how I'm going to support myself. And so I started dialing and I reached out to a friend of mine and he showed me the ropes. And long story short, within, let's see, just trying to think how this all transpired. So I had been working on a business, ended up selling that business for around 100K. That really helped. But just being the person that I am, blew through that money, was still young and wanted to do the 4-hour work week lifestyle, hopped out to some islands and went to Thailand for a year. I did buy a company. I bought a little company though, and it was a fax related company. Tried to build it through Thailand, didn't have much success. But when I got back, I started working on a project with a guy named John Schroeder called Niche Builder. And we put this thing together. And when it was finished, I was able to build 28 websites in 3 days. And one of those sites took off and it started making like $50 a day. And I was like, okay, interesting. Then I went wide across that niche, and that turned into $300 to $450 a day, which is a really good income for living in Bogota, Colombia. And
how was the website making money?
Affiliate marketing.
Okay.
Just daily sales of affiliate stuff. And I eventually got that up to around $1,000 to $2,500 a day. Pretty consistent. But then I got complacency creeps in. I see all these kids out there now. I just turned 50 this year, and I see all the kids out there, and as soon as they get a little bit of money, they want to do the same thing, right? They want to show that they've had some success, go do some travel, etc. Hindsight being 2020, I would have invested more into long-term assets, more real estate, more financial products, etc. But life is the best teacher, right? So being in Colombia and having to figure it out, it's like that. Whenever your back's against the wall, that's when you really dig in and figure stuff out. It's like with us with the content game, right? Now that things are shifting, it's, man, you have to dig inside and be like, okay, what are you doing, right? What's the focus? What do you need to make happen? And one of the things, I was talking with one of my consultants this morning right before this call, and I was like, look, we're starting to see, I mentioned earlier, we're starting to see some penalties on the AI content. And what's happening is Google has 130 places. Basically, they show 13 pages in the scroll. And then you start with the more results, click to see each additional page. But as you go through that, you're going to see more and more product pages, more sponsored posts, more things that are Google products versus actual pages. So really, you have 130 pages. And I was hoping to have a statistic for you on this call, but I've got to imagine there's at least a few thousand pages every minute going up of AI content. I talked to a guy 2 days ago. They're putting out 60,000 pages of AI content per month on one of their websites. Okay. So if you're Google, how do you decide? Let's just think a little logically. How do you decide what to put in those first 130 results, let alone what to put on the first 20 results?
Yeah, that's absolutely insane, the amount of content. And I knew it was going to exponentially increase year after year as soon as GPT was released. And their level 4 version is pretty good at natural sounding text. And
Really
I know they say they have the AI detectors and all that kind of stuff. But even GPT has stated that their detector can't really tell if it's real or fake. I'm sure Google is pretty smart, and they are getting the nuances down, because there are certain words that are always used in the AI writing, from what I can tell. Because I'll be honest, I use it to spin the articles that I found, older ones. I use it to generate general outlines first, and then break it down to actually writing out the paragraphs, and then I add my stuff and have it continue it, etc. It just helps with the writing process. But there's a specific sentence structure that always happens, because I always triple check everything through Grammarly, and they're always changing and fixing the same sentence or same type of sentence over and over again. If you're not triple checking the work, not proofreading it yourself and adding your own touch to it, your own voice, yeah, you're definitely going to get dinged once the Google bots learn the, so to speak.
Imagine you are one of the Philippines-based or India-based content companies. Text Broker comes to mind. They have a lot of Indian writers. That's all gone away. Why would you use third world English for your content when you can get first world English that sounds interesting, right? From there. The real question comes down to this, right? Google, why does Google work? Why do you think Google works?
Google worked, well, they built their search up to answer questions better than what Ask Jeeves did back in the day. And
Absolutely.
the way they display the results make it easy and quick for somebody to get the answers they want. And that's what they understand. They want quick, fast, and easy. And that's what Google provides. So if the information isn't there, it's not formatted right, or if it just seems spammy, then they're obviously not going to show it, and because they don't want to degrade their user experience.
Absolutely. It exists to give the best search result possible. And so if everybody's putting kind of the same content up there, you do have with the Chat GPT, you have the ability to say, write it like Leonard Nimoy, write it like Elon Musk, or write it like you pick the person, Robert De Niro or whoever. And so you can get a variation in the text. It's not like it's one of those article spinners from the days of yesteryear, the article robots, where everything always has the same tone. So there is some variation there, but I believe at the end of the day, you're going to see that they want thought leadership. Now, that still doesn't mean that, let's say my SEO writers are much better than their SEO writers, but we've tried to, and you ever played with Surfer SEO? Are you familiar with that?
Yep, I have it. I have the, at least the plugin on my Google search deal, so I know where the keywords, things like that are, but I haven't used it as an actual tool for my writing.
Okay. So you do like the content editor there, and Surfer and Jasper tried to do some kind of deal together. It still fails. It's not great. The ability to you can put all of these different parameters into GPT and it still won't grab and create the content based on what Surfer SEO shows. So that's one aspect, is if Surfer's saying, okay, here's the chance, or here's the best way for you to rank based on the amount of times a keyword is used, the amount of paragraphs it has, the amount of images it should have, etc. If ChatGPT is not producing that, then it's not going to be the SEO optimized article that people think. And so now what we're seeing, though, is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but over the last summer, TikTok actually became a more highly visited site than Google.
Yeah, it did. It did beat them in search.
Right. I believe that's because you want to teach a dog to shake. Teach my dog to shake. You're going to see 10 different videos, and it's going to be 10 different people with different strategies, or different, at least at a minimum, different dogs. And it's that show me world, right? Where if you look at Google, you have to have not the most unique, but the most complete article in order to rank. So there, you're going to put 5,000 words. Here's what a dog is, right? Where do dogs come from? Why are dogs now domesticated as house pets, etc.? They want you to cover all of that in order to rank, where TikTok is, come here, Fred, shake, right? Here's a treat. You know what I mean? That's so much more focused, and people have a lower attention span as well. So I think we're going to see a lean on that as well on the Google side. Like we've seen it with the YouTube Shorts already.
Yeah. And from my research and understanding, Google loves the long form content, but they should definitely go more towards that 600 to 500 word article blurb that just gives the reader exactly what they're wanting and looking for.
And if we head towards shorts, towards YouTube Shorts, we have to wonder, like, where are we headed? Are we going to be headed to where it's all video content in the future? Who knows? Trying to get my 14-year-old to read a book versus versus surf the internet and TikTok, Instagram. It's difficult, more difficult.
Yeah, I know. I got a 9-year-old myself. I gave him Rich Dad Poor Dad to read, and I said I'd even pay him $100. He finished it and wrote a book report on it over the summer, and he'd rather watch his YouTube videos.
And where's he at with it now?
I think he might have read the first chapter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I used to do $5 a book for the Who Is, Who Was books. Do you know those at all?
No.
Who Is, Who Was is like Who Was Einstein,
Okay.
Who Was Sacagawea, like that. They're only like 80 pages or something, and it's huge, super big print, but he made it through 100 of those at $5 a book. And but ever since we got the computer and the iPhone, and I was very adamant on no video games. And then during the pandemic, it was like, oh my God, there's no school.
Yep.
He has zero contact with anybody. And I finally broke down and got him a PC, and he's been online gaming with his friends ever since.
Yeah. So pivoting a little bit here, and you've started several businesses since you quit the 9-to-5 and early one. What do you think the essential qualities were that you feel you possessed to be successful in getting those started? I'm sure you stumbled along the way and had to sell some, or some just failed, but for the ones that worked, what do you think made that happen?
Have you ever heard people talk about having a chip on your shoulder?
Yep, I got one.
What's the chip on your shoulder from?
I guess being told that I'll never make it. Type
Okay.
deal. Always being as a kid.
Who specifically told you that hurt the most? Who stung you?
When I heard it from probably one of my favorite high school teachers for freshman year science, I heard it from someone, a third party. I can't really trust too much third party, but I heard him saying I didn't think that he was going to make it, where I graduated with a degree in biochemistry and was working pharmaceutical at the time and things like that. To hear him say that, I didn't think you were going to be one of the ones to make it, just got stung a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
but it drives you too.
It does. And it was my second grade teacher that really noticed the chip on the shoulder that I had.
By second grade, you had the chip to succeed.
I had the chip, just irritated with everybody just picking on me and knocking me down, and
So I grew up overweight, and then in high school had horrible acne and just got thick-skinned I lost the weight in high school, but had horrible acne. And so high school was not the coming of age awesome story that it is for so many. Mm-hmm. And just rejection or comments by young girls. You're at that age where you're fascinated by girls and they're rejecting you because of your physical appearance, and you grow into things where you just want to succeed. You want to show that you don't need people's approval. And I would say that is a very key factor. I'm 5'11", but I've noticed like my friends that are like 5'6", 5'7", huge driving factor. Like you can never get away from it. I don't know how tall you are, so don't take offense.
No, I'm taller than that, but yeah.
But what I've noticed is when they're 5'6", 5'7", they have that drive always there. Always there. And it's interesting. I'm 5'11". Both my brothers are 6'4". And so I just think that it's funny how everything works out in life. You look at Joe Rogan, he credits being he says he's 5'8", but I think he's probably 5'6", 5'5". And he credits being short to a lot of his success, which I think is very mature of him to say.
So you've helped out several hundred agencies with Agency Hub so far. Do you have a particular case study off the top of your head as to what you guys have done collectively to help a small business out?
A small business or an agency?
The agency then translating to helping a small business succeed.
Okay, an agency helping. So we have some agencies that service the attorney market.
Okay.
And they've been able to, as much as double their business just through using highly targeted Surfer SEO content, using our map boost system, and using other content, and then even some paid media.
Okay.
So before and after, I could probably send something over to you, but I don't have something off the top of my head. There's so many examples where
Yeah, no problem at all.
you don't come back if you're not growing.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely put the case study in the show notes so you can see
Sure.
how Agency Hub has helped
Yeah, if you
Agency
want to see
XYZ.
Sure. If you want to see some testimonials, you can go to steadycontent.com/testimonials.
Okay.
There's 5 different ones on there of examples of how we improve businesses through content creation. And so that might be one place. And then I'll send you over some stuff as well.
Sounds good. Perfect. And how are you keeping your thumb or pulse on industry trends? There's so much data coming at us left, right, and center. I get half a dozen newsletter emails a day about all the new stuff. How are you keeping up with it?
So one of the tools that I'm using a lot recently is the meta ads library. I
Okay.
don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am.
Okay. So maybe put that in the show notes as well. But I have a trick there that I do where I'll go back like 3 or 4 months, only look at the active ads and then run it back to 2018. And I want to see who's been running since 2018. Now, that's a tactic to figure out in each niche what ads have been running the longest. Generally, people, if you just look at like the last month, you'll see a ton of ads in there, right? That's people testing, trying things. Okay. But if someone's been running an ad for 5 years, guess what? It's working and they're seeing a positive ROI. You can run for a year at a negative ROI, but you're not going to run for 5 years at a negative ROI.
Doesn't make any sense. No, absolutely not.
And so then that's that. And then I also look at if you look at AI content, look for who's advertising and then follow their various funnels. You click the learn more button and see what they're offering, see what their position is, see if you buy it. Then also Facebook groups. I belong to probably 30 different Facebook groups. I'll look through the news feeds there, the notifications of any topics that I may be following. And then I have a network of people that I keep in touch with through Skype and through Slack and through Ring Central. And we're always talking about new topics and new products and what's working and what we can market to the agency world. And then also just being who we are as Agency Hub, we get pitched a lot of different products. So we're an in funnel to new ideas, new concepts, etc.
Gotcha. I think right about the age of 30 for everyone, it's standard operating procedure to get into self-development and self-help and things like that. Blow through your college years with no real direction in life, and then the real world hits you after you graduate and you get that first job. And then about 5 years into it, you're like, what the heck am I doing? How do you define success in business, and how has your definition, evolved over time?
Okay. That's a great question. So I remember being in my 20s, like mid to late 20s, thinking I wanted to be a billionaire. Then reading the 4-Hour Work Week and thinking, wow, you know what? With $5,000 a month, I could travel the world and not have any cares and just keep on the move. And we did that for 7 years straight, and it was awesome. And then you have a child, I have a child. We want to see them have a better developed life. You mentioned that how you got the chip on your shoulder. You don't want your son to have the same issues, do you?
No, I don't, but I still want him to be a go-getter and a striver.
And that's a dichotomy in and of itself, is how do you get them to, there's that saying, show me a great man who's the son of a great man. Have you ever heard that saying? It basically says the people that are super driven, successful, they usually have kids that are soft because they've sheltered them too much from the harshness that created them. The thought or imagery that comes to mind is like the big, almost like a lookalike White House that they're living in because they've had all this success. And that kid, I have several friends from growing up here in Seattle that they grew up with entrepreneur parents that really were driven, very wealthy, and then their kids just became losers. And so that's actually a great point. Now, success for me. So we were headed to Spain. That was how I had defined success. I think when you and I first talked, I was probably headed to Spain. And then we made a last minute pivot to come to Seattle to care for my parents. My mom's now in a rehab. My dad is approaching 90. We're actually share the same birthday. So I'll be 51 the day he turns 90. And we've been here for 5 days now. And I'm so happy with the change that we did, because it's one thing to go off and live in Spain and have Instagram moments. We spent the last 5 summers in Europe doing amazing vacations and traveled so much before that. And we've done our Instagram moments, but it's I don't know that my mom has more than this here. Okay. I don't know what my father's timeline is.
Mm-hmm.
How has that developed? How has that evolved? The ability to be in Texas, be planning to go to Spain, and then at the last minute decide, you know what, let's go be with my folks in Seattle. To me, that's success. What if I was working at Dell or Tesla down in Austin? I wouldn't have been able to do this. So it's maybe my dream of going to Spain and living is on hold for the moment. That ability to have flexibility, we call it like geo freedom, right? To be able to pivot and come here. And then, yeah, just the ability to be around the people that you want to be around, I think is a big one as far as success. So as far as the evolving, I am a millionaire, so it's not about the money so much, although cash flow is always important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have a team, you always have to have cash flow to keep them going. But success for me now is probably that my son does really well in school. He's a first honor roll as he graduated the 8th grade. We're putting him in a good classical Christian education now. Here, he's a competitive swimmer. We're putting him into a swim team here that has sent several kids to the Olympics. So that's what drives us at this point.
That's awesome. And it's awesome to hear he's a swimmer, because I was a swimmer growing up too, over 10 years from 8 to 18.
I can still see the shoulder structure.
Yeah. So freestyle and breaststroke. That was my
that's Mateo as well. Freestyle and breaststroke.
Bread and butter.
Do you remember what your 50 time was?
50 time. I think my best 50 time was high 22s, low 23s. And I think I hit that in the relays. And my best,
the team's just driving you, right?
Yeah. And then my best 100 time was like 50, 58. So I wasn't the fastest kid in the water, but I held my own.
Those are fast though.
Yeah. When you're in high school.
How old were you when you got that high 22s, low 23s?
I was like 17. Okay. I didn't have the Y training that a lot of the swimmers had in the area, because I couldn't afford to do it and buy it.
You didn't have the what training?
The YMCA training.
Oh, the YMCA training. Yeah.
Yes.
You mean the year round? Basically, you weren't year round?
No, I wasn't year round. I was
just really fast for a non-year round swimmer.
I was a 3-sport athlete: lifting, football, swimming. And it was my sophomore year that I hit the time. Then I ended up taking a year off, junior year, and then I went back into the senior year.
Okay.
And
fantastic, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. So you mentioned team there, and I know you're not running all your deals alone. What do you do to foster a culture of innovation and creativity within all your businesses?
Yeah, innovation and creativity, mostly that is through my network of people that I associate with. I'm always open to hear from my team because they're on the front lines, but it's an interesting question. So most of the hires that we've done are for people to implement my vision versus to bring me their vision, if that makes sense. And
it does.
So I would say that my culture of innovation and whatnot, I get that a lot through events that I go to, hanging out with other entrepreneurs. You can't hire vision, right? Apple's a good example of this, right? Steve Jobs was there. They're coming out with all these great products and whatnot. Steve goes away and we get more pixels.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what Apple, in my opinion, but granted, they're the biggest company in the world. They should have a bunch of garage kids just buying up. They should say, "Oh, you're in a garage. Great. Let's work with you." But you don't know whose vision to trust. So I find that when you are running the business, you have to be the vision. That's your job, if there was one. And then listen to people and let that kind of guide the vision, but you have to be the final say so on it, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's taking all the risk. You're going to make the investment. You're going to do whatever it takes to make payroll. And so it has to be what you want to see in the world. I love something that I heard once that said, don't focus on the money, focus more on putting something out there that you want to see in the world. And when it's something that you want to see out there, so like with Agency Hub, I want to see the three-way chat system work very well so that the 1 to 2 person agency can have more than 10 clients and facilitate that, and then become a central hub for the digital marketing world, right? I want to see that in place. And so when things get really tough, you fall back on that vision and you're like, yeah, we're trying to do this. We're just trying to inch a little more towards that. We're trying to gain a little bit, just like the map boost. We're trying to get one more point on the map, right? And so you have to, it has to be your vision in that, is what I would say.
Definitely good. Yeah, that should be the one. I know you mentioned be on the front lines, but I think every owner should be on the front lines to an extent to show and lead the way, but definitely let the team swing the hammer or do the actual work. How are you then balancing your professional and personal life? What kind of tips do you have to help out those listening?
I do yoga. Haven't done it since I got here to Seattle, but we have a place picked out. Usually try to do that 5 days a week in the morning. And that is, you just have to get that kind of negative energy out first thing in the morning. And then as far as like Mateo's school things, those are a huge priority. His swimming events are a huge priority for me. It's really easy to hide behind the business and say, no, I've got calls. No, I've got this. No, I've got that. It's also pretty easy to take your cell phone and your Kindle Scribe, highly recommend that product, and go to the swimming event. And you're with the ability to access your various messaging systems on the phone now, it's pretty amazing what you're able to get done from the field. Right? And then just you book your time where you have to actually like work on an ad campaign or something, book an hour and just do that. Turn off all your notifications for everything else and just do that. And then it's like you have proactive and reactive business. So I try to do proactive business first thing in the morning when I wake up, and then you start moving to reactive, because reactive is like answering emails, answering your Slack, etc. As those come in, it's like you're just playing tennis with them or whack-a-mole. You're just like, okay, yeah, dealt with that issue, dealt with that issue, dealt with that issue. You can do that all day long, right? Just the workout, why I work out in the morning is because nothing can get in the way, right? By the time 5, 6, 7 o'clock comes around, just about anything can get in the way. Yeah. Right?
Sure. For sure. How do you then approach the risk that comes associated with running your own business with everything that's getting thrown at you?
How do I approach the risk?
Yep. And how do you manage it?
That's a good question. I think that it comes with it. And so I have a couple of exercises that I do. Okay. Not physical exercises, but mental exercises. And I don't think that the world puts enough weight on how important mental health is, especially to men, right? I think it's a common thing that women talk about their mental health and they're more vocal about it, whereas guys, we bottle it up inside. Maybe we are expressive to our wife about it, but just nobody else, right? And so one of the exercises that I'll do that I think is great for young entrepreneurs, I don't have to do this at this point, but an exercise that I used to do that I've taught to a lot of people it's called treading water. Okay. And so have I talked to you about this?
No, I haven't heard of it. Yep.
Okay. So what treading water is you take a spreadsheet, you put all of your income and all your expenses in. Okay. And so let's say that you're making 20K a month and you have expenses for 21. Let's use an example. So you're losing $1,000 a month. Okay. And then you have $30,000 in savings, for example. Okay. So when you run the spreadsheet, that those simplistic numbers there will show that you could tread water for 30 months. Okay. Then you say, okay, I'm going to increase my business by X. Let's call it 4% a month, just like you're trying to do with the ClickFunnels affiliates, right? Let's say you're going to grow your business by 4% a month. So you plug those numbers in. All right. And then, so while your anxiety might be at like a level 9, once you plug those numbers in, okay, within 2.5 months, I'm going to be positive. Within 5.5 months, I'm going to have a $3,500 a month positivity. Within 1 year, okay, I'm going to have $7,000 a month positive. You following me?
I am 100%.
Okay. And then you say, okay, what else could I do? Okay, let's see. I could cut down on my groceries by $100 a month. I could cut down on some other bill by $30 a month or something. And so that creates a situation where now instead of being $1,000 down, you're $870 down. And so you just start making these little calculated adjustments, and you're like, and so when the last time I had to do this was in 2019, either 2019 or 2020 New Year's, I was doing business with a company that was doing roughly $400,000 a month with us. And they got raided by the SEC and shut down.
Oh, man.
My largest client by far at the time, they still owed me 170 grand, something like that. And I'm like, okay, how long can we tread water? And I ran all the numbers 6 ways from Sunday, and I ended up, okay, I've got 29 months based on where I'm at here. Okay, reality, we were back in a positive scenario within 3 months.
Wow.
But it's sometimes you have to, like, when you talk about how do you deal with the stress of the risk, that's one of the exercises.
I should definitely start implementing that and sharing that. I got it from you. Yeah, I probably need to look at my numbers more closely as well. I know I'm doing okay, but I know I'm not raking in the big bucks because I definitely spend a little bit more than I'm bringing in.
And you gotta, and that's just it. Is, are you getting coffee out every morning? Or do you go to the store and get the big Folgers crystals, right? Not the instant, but the regular, and make it at home. There's a dichotomy there because I love going to the coffee shop and sitting and just watching people for a half hour. Love it. Okay. But here in Bothell, it's mostly drive-through. And I'm like, zero value. There's zero value in that because I've got my milk frother and I can make a better coffee here at home than they can make there. So now I look at it as, hey, you know what? I'll just make my Folgers and put a little creamer in it and whip it up. And I've got a better coffee, and I never left the house, and it cost me 30 cents versus now it's what, $7 a coffee?
Roughly, depending on where you go. I mean,
pick one up for the wife with tip, you're $15.
Yeah. Here in Urbana, we got a coffee shop on every corner. We're a town of 10,000, which makes 0 sense, but there's a market for it. So they keep popping up.
And what's a coffee cost there?
Anywhere from $5 to $9, depending on size, exactly what you get,
how much sugar you want.
We have, I think, two major chain restaurants that do the coffee and the breakfast deal. Obviously, the fast food places, but majority of them are the mom and pop coffee shops. So
sure,
they love their coffee here.
Yeah. So yeah, just to sum that up, it's cutting expenses while you grow the forecast or you grow your pipeline.
So then where do you see the agency landscape evolving then in the next 5 to 10 years with the risk in mind, losing clients due to unforeseen circumstances, and then the technology that is emerging and some of the stuff that you're already using and promoting? Yeah.
So where I see it headed is, you look at Century 21 and Keller Williams and some of these big real estate houses. I see it headed towards the Vendastas, the agency hubs. There's a few other ones out there that are what are called aggregators. Right? We're aggregators now, but I believe as you go forward, it'll be like agency hub certified agencies. it'll be Vendosta certified agencies along those lines. And they'll provide, their job is to provide you just an untold amount of resources, collaboration, software, various tools, audits, etc., in order to make the whole thing go smoother. In return, they get either a monthly subscription, a piece of the deal, or markup on products.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it just makes sense that it's headed that direction. It used to be, I don't know, 30 years ago, very few people were part of a real estate brokerage, like a national chain, and now almost all are part of some type of chain.
Yeah. And when I started to figure out the agency consultant game, that was one of the lessons is find the aggregator for the fulfillment. Sure, there's Fiverr and Upwork and all those that you can do as individual things, but you're just clumping together piecemeal services that you can't keep track of, and you don't have a system to sell efficiently and effectively and have that same customer experience across the board. Appreciate your time here today with me. You've given so much valuable information for anybody that's looking to get into the agency consulting world. Before we wrap up, is there anything you would like to share additionally, what's going on with Agency Hub, about yourself or any type of deal you have going on?
Yeah, I would say I consider myself a Christian, and I think that a little bit of time with God or whoever your higher power is, I think that we wake up to pray. We pray before every meal. It's really pray for the path that God wants you to be on every single day. And I feel, I mentioned we were going to Spain and now we're here. I feel like that was part of the path that we're supposed to be on. And just everything is maybe not always according to your timing. And don't try to force everything to be what you want it to be. Relax a little bit and just run with the path that's set in front of you.
That's great advice. And where can listeners connect with you and learn more about Agency Hub and study content and all your other services?
Feel free to email me direct, matt@agencyhub.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Matt Gerchow. You can see it on the screen there. I'm always open to conversations and just growing my network.
There you go. That's awesome. Your net worth is definitely your network, or vice versa.
I agree.
One of the ways, I don't remember how Grant puts it, but it's there. And so finally, what is the one key takeaway you want to leave the audience with our conversation?
So one key takeaway from our conversation that we've talked about today, everything we've talked about, is, if I'm shamelessly self-promoting, it's run your agency through Agency Hub. And if I am just looking at kind of everything we talked about, I would say this kind of goes back to that, to the risk and the self-help and everything. I think that we tend to get really inside our heads as entrepreneurs, that we're basically looking at a screen and expecting that you've seen the image of the money coming out of the screen, right? And we're basically looking at our email and we're looking at the various tools and the various ClickFunnels, et cetera, Stripe. And we're basically saying, okay, up here somewhere, I have the ability to make money come out of the screen. And so a lot of it is sometimes you have to just get away from the screen and grab a piece of paper and write it out, what's happening, okay, from start to finish. How is that money going to come out of the screen? And then you take a break, come back, work at that until that vision becomes like a complete structure, test it, and then oftentimes it works.
There you go. It's great advice there. And thinking about that, the whole internet money thing, it always takes you back to an episode of South Park. One of the earlier seasons, probably when YouTube was in its infancy, where they were making fun of the Uma guy and the Afro Ninja guy, and Kermit's trying to get his internet money. That episode really stuck with me. Ever since then, I've been trying to figure out.
I don't know if I've seen that. I'm going to
figure out the game.
Since we're done.
Yeah, look it up. South Park Internet Money. It's one of the earlier seasons of the show. I want to say it's within its first 6 is what I want to say.
Yeah,
but,
awesome, man. I will check that out.
Definitely check that episode out. It's funny.
Those things stick.
They do. Matt, again, I appreciate your time and taking out of your day to speak with me and other agency owners and up and coming agency owners. The services, one, that you provide, and 2, the resources that are out there to help them grow and expand their agencies. So with that,
Awesome.
thank you for listening to the Business Growth Accelerator. Brandon and Matt signing off. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Business Growth Accelerator. As always, all resources mentioned in this episode will be found in the show notes below, so be sure to check them out. Also, let me know what you think of this episode. Did Matt's insights really help you hone in on developing your agency and your brand? If so, leave a comment and let me know. Again, for all things marketing and business, check me out on the web at BKXX Enterprises, and here's to your success.